Hey y'all, I have made it back for episode 2 of I Got Something to Say. I was so excited to release episode 1. I'm even more excited to release episode 2 and just see where things go. I want this to be a journey of joy, conversation, and ultimately community. And so today I want to venture into talking about influencers. Can't get out, influencers and consumerism on social media, and how to me it's just overwhelming. It's too much, it doesn't make sense, and now I'm questioning what is the point of social media. So let's get into it. I'm gonna hold back in this conversation, and I know the things that I'm talking about are first world problems. They ultimately are trivial things, but I know that a bulk of people spend a lot of time online, spend a lot of time on social media apps. So while it may seem trivial, I think it's important to think about what is distracting us, why it's distracting us, and how it's distracting us. So if you go on Instagram and TikTok, I just feel like I'm watching QVC. I don't like to watch QVC. That's something that you watch if you are up late at night and there's literally nothing else on. But I feel like I can't escape that when I go on Instagram. I strangely feel like I cannot escape trauma if I go on TikTok. And while I don't want to diminish anyone's problems or issues, there is something to be said about opening an app not knowing what you're going to get. I was explaining this to a friend the other day, and it's like if you go on to Netflix and you're scrolling through Netflix, most of us are going to watch the trailer, and then we're going to decide from watching the trailer what movie or show we're going to watch. But that doesn't really happen when you open up social media. You're basically opening yourself up to anything, right? So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's all positive things, but then a lot of times it's taking you down rabbit holes and thoughts that you didn't even have on your own. So really, I want to question who is really the influencer online, right? Is it the people who are calling themselves influencers? Is it the brand? Is it something bigger than the brands? I do really want to talk about that. And I have honestly so many things to say about it, like I did the other topic. But I'm going to try to find a way to round out this conversation so it's not too all over the place. I want to start off by reading this quote that I found on YouTube from another content creator. And it goes like this. It says, "There is an unseen force in the world that will do anything in its power to rob you of any creative idea left in your brain. It has gone by many names: primetime TV, pop culture, top 40, or most recently, the algorithm." And his name is Frew, and I will make sure to put the link to his video down in the show notes. But I just thought, wow, I was stunned when I heard the quote, because it just made me think about before it used to be that people felt like you shouldn't watch TV, like it was called the idiot box. And I don't know if that's appropriate to say now, but that's what it was sometimes referred to. And I think about how it has evolved to being our cell phones and then social media on our cell phones. And what's even worse about social media is the fact that it takes in so many different senses. And I guess the same with the TV when you're holding the remote and you're just flipping. But now our phone is like, it engages all your senses and it keeps you so locked in that you really could be in your own world but still be around other people. To further get back to his quote, I just felt like this was my takeaway listening to his quote. If I take away your time to think and I feed you images, I can program you to do what I want. I can have you think how I want you to think, and I can have you buy what I want you to buy. And for me, I think that's the main point of the algorithm right now. It isn't for us to connect with each other. I feel like some are able to sift through the noise and still make connections online, but that just isn't the driving force behind all the new updates on social media. And if you are someone who creates content online, you will see that there's a lot of conversation around views and the visibility of their content, and people just feeling like their content can't get out there. And I think it's for many reasons, but one reason I think is because it is really oversaturated. There's so many people online that are trying to start influencer careers. It's no longer like, look at my dog, look at my kids, and look at my family, which I guess is fine if that's what we no longer want to see. But what is the cost of the changes on Instagram and TikTok? And especially Instagram, I feel like influencers are making whole movies and like 30-second clips where it's like this cinematic, beautiful thing. And I'm like, whoa, the bar is just moving up and up and up. And I know people will listen to this and think, oh, no, you're just being a hater. But it's just when you really think about the fact that a free social media app is causing people to invest money in visuals, pictures, and something that you have to keep up with. It's not like you're posting this video or these clips once a week. Once a week. You probably are trying to post them once a week, once a year. We're talking about people doing matching photo shoots with their family several times a year. And it's just like, what is the driving force behind all of this? And the answer is to make money. Ultimately, it is to make money. People can say what they want, that it's about their art and they love doing it. But I don't buy it. It's like a piece of baloney to me. I think it's baloney to think that you would be filming all of this and you would be showcasing your life if it wasn't ultimately for the price of some type of fame that you're looking for, some type of validation, and to me, mostly money. And so what does that cost us when people are willing to open their homes and open their lives all for profit? And what does it do to the people that are viewing the content? What does it change about them? What does it change about their household? And while people may be thinking it's really not that deep, I think it really is that deep. As someone who's a content creator or someone who calls themselves an artist, you always have to consider the intent of what you're putting out there. And I'm sure people don't, and that's just not okay. There has to be some standards that we set for what we're allowing to come into our mind and come into our homes, and potentially sometimes come into our kids' home, our kids' view. And then what? Like, what are we trying to set people up with or for? I'm someone who feels like just because things have always existed that way doesn't mean that we don't need to question it. And I know that sometimes that can be hard for people. It's like, oh, you're just trying to pick things apart. But it's like, if you're born into a system that you didn't create, why do you not get to question it? Capitalism is not something that I got to choose. So why do I have to just accept it as the only answer, the only solution, or not even question the principles of it and how does it impact not only me, but those in the world around me? What I just want to say is that with capitalism, the goalpost is always going to be moving. There's never going to be a point where a company or a brand says, oh, you know what? That's enough. We sold 100 candy bars. We're not going to produce any more candy bars. They are going to produce that last candy bar until they basically go down to zero, or the company's in debt and able to just, skate by and not even pay everyone. They're just out of business. That is how far companies are going to go. That is how far our government and those in power are going to go. There's not going to ever be a point where they say, you know what? We have produced enough. That is it. We're done. And so they're not going to question how the production of all these things are just overwhelming our economy. They're overwhelming people and they're overwhelming our environment. And that's just the basis of it. And the reason that I'm calling out the influencers, even though I think it is above them, is that I feel like they're playing a role in it and they don't even realize it, or they don't care because they're driven by what they think they're getting out of the relationship. So let's really think about who wins in an influencer relationship. I know the influencer thinks that they win because ultimately they get to go on the gram and flex like they have these, particular lifestyles. And then if it's a really good brand deal or partnership, then they obviously get paid for it, right? But what is the cost of this actual relationship? How does it affect the viewers? And then how does it affect that influencer in the long run? So in the relationship with the influencer and the brand, it's going to take a toll on your mental health. And I don't care what most of the content creators say. There's been a period where they felt overwhelmed. If they have a team, then maybe they don't feel as overwhelmed. And so if I could really sum up what I think is happening, I want to talk about a video where I learned about a new person that I've never heard of, and his name is Edward Bernays, and he is considered the father of public relations. And actually, he came up with the term public relations, and he used it to replace the word propaganda because propaganda had such a negative attachment to it, and he wanted something that sounded smooth. So he really is like the father of people making things sound digestible and sound smooth, where people feel like they can purchase it or they need to have it. And so this is one of his phrases that I just feel like sums up this whole conversation, and it's that selling products isn't about selling products, it's about selling emotions. So yeah, that's what people are doing in an influencer relationship. And if you take any type of online marketing class or just a marketing class in general, what are they going to tell you? That people make purchases based on their emotions. To tap into people's emotions, you're going to hear you need to educate, you need to entertain. I can't think of the other one, but there's a third one that people always say. And essentially, they're saying you need to evoke emotions out of people, and then they're going to purchase from you. You will also hear a lot about they need to get to know you in order to purchase from you. They need to trust you. But no one ever says you need to be trustworthy. Some will say you need to be trustworthy in the sense that if you start initially telling people lies like, oh, if you use this product, then your skin's going to clear up, and people start using it and it doesn't, right? They will tell you that. But it's really about you being able to get people to trust you, not whether you're actually a trustworthy person, and if they should be even trusting you to give them this type of advice, right? So it is some manipulation that's being taught, right? And it's something that if you were in public relations or you were in marketing, it was something that you are already familiar with. And now it's coming down to where the everyday person is really learning this rhetoric. And even if they don't know the actual words, they're being taught to do the same thing. They're being taught to manipulate people in order to make purchases, for them to buy things that they really don't need, but make them feel like they need it. So in the video, I will also attach it. They talked about George Bernays and how he was able to sell cigarettes to housewives or sell cigarettes to women. They also talked about how he was able to help the car industry be able to continue to sell cars, because the logic before George Bernays was that if you purchase a car, most people would only purchase one car. To have two cars which just didn't make sense for most people, and also didn't make sense financially. But it's also something that they would buy and they would just use forever. And at that point, it was something that was created to last way longer than sometimes our cars last now. So George Bernays came up with the fact that you need to attach something to the product that you're selling to make people feel like they need something that they don't necessarily need, to make purchases over and over for things that are ultimately supposed to last a long time. And so there was a term also coined in there that was plan opulence, which means that you're planning for products to is you're planning for products to actually break. So when you're manufacturing your TVs or you're manufacturing your cars, you're making them so that they don't last as long, to also make people continue to purchase something that really needs to be a purchase that they're making one time and they're not making it again for several years. The idea was that if you attach masculinity to actually purchasing cars, that you can begin to get men to purchase cars based on this symbol that they have out to other women and the symbol that it has to like society, right? So having convertibles or having certain cars were going to be attached to a man's ego, essentially. And so from there, he made the car industry start to boom because they weren't just getting those one-time purchases. So when you really think about that, that has been the basis of what we're living through right now. We have a bunch of unnecessary things. And I saw this meme on social media, and it was saying that anything you purchase from Amazon is not a necessity. And I'm like, dang, you right. The stuff that I be clicking to purchase on Amazon, sometimes it is, but sometimes it is just the most random little piece of thing that you really could live without. And if you think about how far that piece of, like, if you just bought this random like coffee maker, how many different trucks had to be fueled just to bring this little random coffee maker to your house? What was the production of this item like? You know, what is it costing us for us to have these conveniences and live in a world where we just can never have enough stuff. So I decided to stop my relationship with being an influencer because I didn't want to influence people to buy things that they didn't need. If we just look at what's going on with the economy as far as inflation and wages not matching the cost of these goods, and essentially them being able to price hike so that they can continue to make useless things, at some point, as consumers and as viewers on social media, we have to say enough is enough. I have even stopped at this point making content about going to the thrift store, you know, just all of it, because ultimately, even what I was doing is rooted in making you feel like external things have something to do with your happiness. And while I'm not saying they don't add to your life, and, you know, there's not this artwork that really sets the mood for your home, or this particular couch that you want that is comfortable and for you to create memories with your family on, but it's also this point of feeling like what I have is enough. The opposite of overconsumption isn't nothing. It's getting to a point of saying, I have enough things. Let someone else get some more things, and begin to tell these companies no. Even though it does seem like I'm kind of picking on influencers at this moment, I do know that it is above them, but I just want to know at what point are they going to wake up and realize they are playing a role in what is a bigger issue, and what point are they going to say, you know what, I don't want to be the face of you going into debt, buying things that you don't really need. And yes, that seems dramatic, and people might be like, oh, well, if they're purchasing, they have enough money to do it. I don't think so. Based on different statistics, I heard the statistic that most people who make over $100,000 or at least $100,000 live paycheck to paycheck. And essentially, they're saying that someone who has $100,000 shouldn't have to live paycheck to paycheck. But I will argue right now, $100,000, you are living paycheck to paycheck, especially if you live in a big city. But either way, we say all this to say that people who quote unquote are making enough money they're not shielded from this actually happening to them as well. And it's just, you know, it's just the lifestyle inflation that's going on. People, you know, showing you their houses from top to bottom. And the whole video is being sold an image. If I'm sitting at Starbucks, yeah, maybe I don't mention Starbucks, but you know where I'm sitting, right? And it's just continuing to build up for Starbucks. I'm writing in a notebook and I'm showing you the front of the notebook. You know, it's all these things that turn into what seem like little small moments, but then they are actually impacting and affecting our life as a whole. I want this conversation to be fruitful. I don't want it to be just bashing influencers, but I do want to hear how people are viewing social media. Do you feel like it's something that you would continue to use? Do you even think any of the things that I'm saying are valid? Have you experienced them either as a content creator or a viewer? Please tap in the comments, because I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But for me, I no longer create content to try to make relationships with brands. I will continue to create content as I feel inspired. But at this particular moment, I do not have Instagram on my phone. I have taken it off my phone because I just don't see the point of it. The people that I talk to on there are mostly people that I can just text and also talk to outside of the app. So there's no point of me being on there just for us to share memes. It's not that anything's wrong with that and that I don't enjoy it and I don't get a good laugh, but ultimately it's not hurting me if I don't see it. It's not necessarily adding anything. I won't say maybe that it's taking anything away, but it is taking away time, and time is something that none of us can get back. So ultimately, what is the point of social media in our life? How does it fit in our lives? Is it something that is valuable? And if you do think it's valuable, what parts about it are valuable to you? Or is it just something you do because everyone else is doing it and it doesn't seem like there's anything else to do? At this point for me, I'd rather just, if I'm going to spend useless hours, I'm going to spend them on either YouTube, or I'm going to just spend them watching a series, watching TV, something that is a little bit more control. I can search out what I want to watch, and if I don't want to see a particular thing, then I don't have to see that. When I think about content, it also makes me think about the movie and the TV industry. And I was watching a video a while ago, so I don't have it as a reference, but it was talking about different films and music and why certain things are backed and why certain things aren't backed. And when you think about film and you think about TV, it has a lot of influence over people's lives, even if people want to deny that it doesn't. Some people's ideas about marriage and love and how their life should look have come from the TV screen. So let's not act, as if it has no power. But if you think about why certain themes are in movies and TV shows, you have to wonder why, and it's because people want to send some type of message, and a lot of the messages are not positive. When we really look at the music industry, it's not just as creative and artistic as I guess I once thought. It's not as if I thought these people were saints or anything, but it's proving to be a lot sinister than even I had given credit for it to be. So when you think about social media and you think about what stays at the forefront, don't act like it's not staying at the forefront for a reason. When they want to show black people acting a fool, let's not act like it's just staying that way for a reason. I was watching a TV show the other day, and it was this most random scene. I was watching the Night of limited series, and it was showing this guy in prison in this scene that really had no point, and it was like they were in the holding cell and this lady just kept screaming. And so this guy goes over and violently starts beating her up. Well, what color do you think he was? You know what I'm saying? So it might seem subtle to y'all, but you really have to pay attention to why did they choose it to be a black man. This most random scene, like it had nothing to do with the show. He's not going to ever come up again, but the face of the person being violent was someone black. And I couldn't tell if the woman was black or not because they had her like over a toilet. But I want to say that she was white. I don't really know. But either way, why did they choose him to do that, right? It was a useless scene. But we have to think about the images that are being programmed in our mind and why are they being programmed. The conversation could go on forever if you ask me, and I wanted to try to have a more healthier conversation, because right before I went on my social media break, I started really being upset about influencers, and I even made a few pieces of content, and people are like, well, why are you yelling? And it was really that I was just impassioned, which we can talk about that at another point. But it's just because I was passionate about the fact that people really were being influenced. I kept seeing all these closet systems, and it was like, you know what, y'all, it's okay if your house is regular. Before all this social media stuff and we were being put into people's houses like we were okay with having the regular closet rack. I feel like there were people who upgraded their closet, but it wasn't because it was being plastered everywhere. And I was just like, if I see one more white closet system on the internet and then me hearing other people, everyday people talking about a closet system, I just was like, okay, enough. So I made a whole video about that. And at this point, that was probably like a year ago. And I did erase it, and I made it on TikTok. But I know the video made sense, and people like to just argue back and forth about certain things. So I did just delete it because I'm like, I don't want that attention. So right now I am trying to have a healthier conversation about it. But I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. I know it on TikTok at some point, and maybe still now, they had like the de-influencing trend. I've also consumed content on YouTube that is very similar to the conversation that we had today. And I want it to be a conversation that I'm able to continue to have, and that you guys also partner with me in this topic so that we can, you know, figure out a better way, and like, what is the point and where are we headed with all of this. And I think that's where I land on with having this conversation, is like, where is this headed? Where is this going? Because the bar is just going to keep moving up and up, and people are just going to continue to do all these antics just to get attention, to continue to be on the radar for brands. And the end driving force of all of this is money. It's making people do things that they would not have done before if they didn't see this like shiny diamond in front of their face, making them think that they have the possibility to be the next Jackie Aina. You know, I think what is missing is just the diversity in the content. Let's have some people on the platform that's just showing their regular house. It's not like dolled up to the nines, and they actually be popular, right? Just diversity in what we're seeing. The same with like the rap girlies. Like, it's the same argument of like, okay, yes, y'all can exist, but what else? Like, what else is going to be out there? Can there be someone who's actually talking about things that we need to hear? If we're going to spend so much time on an app, who is the person that's out there basically being like a social media Michelle Obama or social media Barack Obama, whoever? Just where is the leadership? I think that's what I'm looking for when I'm questioning social media. And to just close things out, I don't think everything that we do has to have a point. Like, there needs to be boredom in our life. There needs to be time to just read a book. There needs to be time to just have a dance party with your family. Like, everything you do doesn't have to have a point. And I understand that's why people use social media. But the thing about social media is that when you get on the app, it's designed for you to spend way more time than you intended on there. So you can't tell me that no one spends more time on the app than they thought they were going to when they opened it up, or more time than they probably need to in quote unquote leisure and downtime. It's just also about diversifying your leisure time and putting in other activities like going for a walk, going for a hike, spending downtime with your spouse, spending downtime with your kids. And it is not everyone on these devices. And then we have to be willing to critically examine what we're viewing, whether it is on TV, whether it is on Instagram, whatever it may be. There's been a period recently where I just didn't even watch any type of like crime shows, Dateline, any of those things, because as much as we want to act like it doesn't bother us or it doesn't get into our subconscious, it really does. Was a TikToker, and her name is, I think, The Greater Gatsby, and she was talking about how she was doing these different experiments, and she was just listening to one particular artist for 30 days, and I think she did 30 days of Meg the Stallion, and she was like, after those 30 days, there were visible changes to how she was carrying herself, to the point that other people were saying things about her. And then she did 30 days of someone that wasn't as positive, and I can't remember who it was, but she was talking about how she could see the effects of those 30 days of just listening to that artist and listening to stuff that they talk about. So we are influenced by these things. No one is above it. I'm not above it, but I know that I'm just constantly questioning, why am I doing this? Why do I want to buy this? Why do I want to purchase this? Like, does this even make sense? And I will say that ultimately for me and my family, being able to get out of debt was strongly tied to figuring out our emotions around money and our emotions around purchases. Why are we doing the things that we do? And that's how I feel about social media. Why are we purchasing the things that we're leaving the app to purchase? Is it because we truly need it, or is it because we were just influenced in that moment? And the other point I want to say is that I do feel like influencers have a responsibility to question, when is enough enough? Like, when is it enough promoting the next product? I know it's exciting for them to have brand partnerships and this is a job for them, but it's not as if this is the only job that they can get. And then are they even vetting these brands to figure out if this is important for their audience? If it's not important for their audience, then it's not like it's something that they have to continue to do. And we also need to question if this is a healthy parasocial relationship that a lot of us are in, where you literally are following this person because you know they're going to show you something in their house, and you guys are in the comments talking about buy, link. You're typing this into to describe this better. A lot of influencers will put up posts and then they'll say, oh, this is this dress that I wore to my wedding. If you want to know about this dress and if you want to purchase it, just write buy under my caption and I will send you the link to purchase. And I'm just thinking, what? And then you will go to the comments and I'm telling you, it's like 100 people saying buy, literally typing buy, link. And that's why I'm like, is this QVC? Like, what is going on here? Like, is there not something else that we need to be doing right now? So the more time we spend on these apps, the more distracted we are, and businesses know this. Like, the algorithm is built for us to be on there and stay on there, and the longer we're on the app, we're just really getting to a point of just kind of being brain dead, just like how it was when we were watching TV and people were complaining about TV. Businesses and the government know that, so they take advantage of this and they use it to line their pockets. They use it to put more money in their pockets and take care of them and their families. And we are just letting it happen because we can't spend any time not being bored. Every second we need to be dripped in entertainment. And I just want to question, like, what is it costing us to be in that state so often, daily, weekly, monthly, and a whole year of time is just going by so fast. And, you know, I have started to feel like time is going by so fast. And I wonder if it feels that way because of the amount of time we spend on these apps. And to answer that question, I feel like it's costing us valuable time to connect with our family and friends in real life, to even build a community around us. When I think about small towns, like, we're so far from small towns because we have created these like almost weird small towns online where people are talking about the same influencers, following the same influencers. You're having conversations with people off the app, but you're talking about these same few people instead of, you know, doing the maybe unhealthy gossiping about the people in your town. It has turned into some weird thing where we all know the same people in common, but we really don't truly know these people. It's just a weird ecosystem. I just think it is costing us healthy relationships with money as well. It's costing our kids a lot more than people are willing to admit and even question. Like, why are we even allowing this to happen? Like, we have to take control of our community and our country. And so I will end there. I don't think this is the last time we, of course, will have this conversation. And I definitely want to partner with you in thought and really hear your side and what you think about all this. As for now, we will meet on the next episode. And I pray in